All right, hello and welcome to Rec Chat, where students and professionals talk about all things collegiate recreation. I'm your host, Rochelle Williams from Western Washington University, where I'm the Aquatics and Youth Programs Coordinator. Thanks for joining us today. You can find all of the videos in this series either on YouTube or IGTV. We are excited to be spotlighting a member of the Asian Caucus today. Before we introduce our panelists, I would like to share our gratitude with our friends at NERSA HQ for all of their support. If you haven't already, please follow them on Twitter or Instagram at NERSA Live. So, without further ado, I am happy to swing it over to Kenny so he can introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kenny Huynh. I am a first generation college student. Parents immigrated in the 90s to Houston, Texas. My father is Chinese and my mother is Vietnamese. Um, Pursued my undergrad in kinesiology at University of Houston. Initially wanted to be a physical therapist, shadowed for about a semester at a clinic, and figured that this isn't really the setting I want to be in to help other people. So I was suffering from sort of a imposter syndrome for part of the way, just because watching my peers get accepted to PT school and seeing everyone else making progressions in the career goals, I was kind of just at a loss. And during that time, I was still working at Campus Rec, and I was running a student organization and having some evaluations and just talking to my peers and just the members, realized that hey, like I think I have a huge role I'm playing right now. I didn't realize it until someone pointed out that I was kind of like a older sibling for some people, just because like college is pretty difficult. You're balancing school, your future aspirations, and the social life, and um, me having been a first generation college student, uh, and my parents never went to college. Had some cousins that did go, but our age gap was just too big for me to really connect to them, and kind of had to figure out how to navigate my way through college, not just academically, but professionally, socially, um, all those things, and trying to like prevent current student staff now at U of H from having to go through all that, and kind of just help them expedite and get a head start. And that's kind of just a big thing on why I'm with Campus Rec. A lot of involvement with the student staff and student development. Kind of just want to be a big part of that. Um, Currently, I am a graduate student pursuing a master's in sports and fitness administration. And I also currently serve as a graduate assistant for operations at University of Houston. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. I'm excited to chat today. So, could you talk to us about how NERSA has supported your professional development in general and also with celebrating your Asian identity?
Mm, in terms of professional development, um, I attended a regional conference in 2018. I believe it was hosted at Texas A&M University. It was my first work conference outside of high school. Um, it was very nerve-wracking. I personally find it difficult for me to really engage and network with other people, but being able to get my feet wet or just dipping my toes in the water at that conference, I kind of just observed and see like how people like met each other, talked, networked, um, and then I think before NERSA, I was planning to attend one of the interview sessions, but I kind of got cold feet and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna not do it because I don't think I'm ready. Instead, I talked to someone at NERSA. I can't remember who it was, but they recommended me to go on NERSA, and they had like a very generic 100 questions interview questions list, and I could just go off that and kind of just type out my answers and get a feel for like who I am as a person. So from there, that helped me interview for other positions on campus and even this graduate assistant position right now. Um, and as far as Asian identity, I'll be quite frank. Going to a conference, I didn't see that many people, I guess, that like looked like me. It was interesting because uh, I guess I was expecting like like a very diverse range of professionals, especially with other GAs or student staff. only saw probably like one or two people, and one of them came from U of H. So I was kind of just like, oh, like I just noted in my head, but I didn't really feel too bothered. Um, and I guess from there, I kind of just took like as an opportunity, like, oh, like I should probably, I guess, not necessarily like wear it as like a chip on my shoulder or like a badge of honor, kind of just, I don't see that many people that I guess identify as Asian here. So, and if since I enjoy, I guess, this field of profession, I should probably try to make myself, I guess, my presence known and be impactful, and kind of just be that figure that I guess if other, students identify the Asians that are interested in this field, kind of see like, oh, like this guy, he looks like me, he's in this field, you know, I could do this. It's just one of those things. Um, and I guess one that really resonated with me was March 2020. I know we were going to a lockdown, and with the lockdown going on, everyone stayed home, more time spent on social media, a lot of more societal issues were coming up, and people were talking about them more. And with that, I know there was an increase in Asian hate crimes. Um, one happened like 5-10 minutes from where my parents used to stay in Cyprus, and I kind of just like, whoa, like this is real. Like it was that could have been my mom at her nail shop that she worked at. And they're supposed to, oh, like we stand with the Asian community. I remember it was on Instagram, I believe, and I was like, like at least they're like acknowledging it. I see a lot of organizations that kind of just like stay silent, even though they heavily use like I guess inspirations from Asian cultures. NERSA, even though they're, I guess, in my experience, their demographic isn't like largely diverse to where like I see more people that look like me. They still like posted that message, and I was like, at least they're acknowledging it, and that's like a lot I can already ask for.
Great, thank you so much. So, it, yeah, it's the whole networking thing. I think going back to that point, I think that that's definitely something that a lot of students kind of struggle with. And
Mm-hmm.
that was really wonderful that you were able to like find a resource and then like utilize that. When we meet at annual, we'll play Have You Met Kenny? And I'll introduce you to all of the people I know. So,
uh,
yeah, I can make sure there are going to be lots of people there that will be excited to see you. So, I've got lots of tips. Uh,
Appreciate that.
yeah. So, how has your identity impacted your experience and your well-being formally as a student? And then you're also, I mean, you're a GA now, so you're in that like paraprofessional, like halftime
Mhm.
professional role. So as a student and also moving into this paraprofessional role within campus recreation.
Mm, can I start with, I guess, how it was during secondary primary education, I
Yeah,
think?
absolutely.
Okay. Um, so uh, growing up, I guess we'll start with, I guess, elementary, middle school, high school. Um, I kind of faced that, I guess, that common internal struggle other Asian Americans face, where it's like, you might bring like an ethnic dish to lunch, and the other kids might look at it like, oh, like what is that? And you're like, oh, this is like what my mom makes. I like to eat this every day. And the kids are like, wow, this smells disgusting. And you're kind of just like, oh, okay, something along those lines. I attended a predominantly Black and Latino school district. So with that, I definitely felt out of place. I was obviously raised in an Asian household and had Asian values and all these things, but in school I just couldn't fit in. I was just too different, or just even look different, and I guess that kind of caused me to try to fit in. And uh, for lack of a better term, I tried to assimilate to what I guess was trending at my school district with the other kids. So it had me listening to like other music or dressing a certain way, um, speaking of certain mannerisms. building a persona that would, I guess, allow people to let me like hang out with them. I guess, uh, started playing different sports, all those good things, and for a time period, I was like, I don't think I could ever appreciate or like go back or like really hang out with people that look like me. And then upon graduating high school, then transferring to U of H after getting my associates, it was a big culture shock. Definitely saw a lot of a bigger population of Asian students, and I was just it took a lot of getting used to, just because they all share like the same interests and things I did before I tried to build this persona just to fit in with my prior school, and it was just really relatable, like scary relatable. I even talked to my mom about it. It's like I don't know who I am, uh, and for a semester or two, I was kind of just split between like how am I supposed to speak, like how am I supposed to interact, who am I supposed to hang out with, and this was college where everybody wanted to be your friend, essentially for the most part. Um, so it was a internal struggle for a bit. Definitely felt like uh, not necessarily imposter syndrome, but something along the lines of those, because what I guess acted or built for 10 years didn't really complement like how I felt currently in college, and I guess that's just one of those things where you kind of grow as a person, and you look back and like 10 years ago, if I told myself like, oh, you're gonna probably start drinking like boba tea or eat more like Korean barbecue outings with other Asian people, I'd probably be like, no, I'll probably just stick to like eating CC's or something. It was weird, but I definitely accepted it just because at the end of the day, I kind of learned like um, kind of go with what you feel is right sometimes, and it felt right at moments. It was just like like I actually feel like I'm more appreciative of my parents, just because seeing how other, I guess, Asian students share their stories with their parents. There's a lot of relatability, and like you know, American dream, coming to America, trying to establish yourself, but then having like setting up a family and make sure they're successful by putting them through college, uh, which probably led to like this Asian stereotype of like the model minority myth, where you try to pursue careers in like STEM fields or the more like respected, prestigious ones, and try to, I guess, just ensure a better way, standard or way of living. Um, and I think overall, just being able to experience or having majority of my upbringing with, I guess, not around as many people that were Asian, um, and then I guess maturation along the way, and then meeting other Asian students now. I think it plays a big role in how I'm able to network with people today. I'm not saying like I can just you can plot me in like a random country and I'll just oh yeah like I'm going to fit in seamlessly. It's just I can kind of like read the room and understand like how to talk to certain people. Especially at U of H is very diverse here. Um, it's kind of like wearing like different masks for different groups of people. I hate to say it like that because it feels very genuine, but there is a certain way that people receive things differently, especially at works. Like some people, prefer to if you were direct, or some people prefer if you were kind of just like sugarcoat things, like the sandwich method, where you kind of just compliment and you know give them what you really want to say, and then compliment again. It was just one of those things where I was able to connect with not only my peers, but especially the newer students that come in to my club, or the ones I'm supervising now, or just anyone that I meet. Um, it just helps me get along with people like seamlessly more now. So definitely do appreciate it, and I feel like I don't really regret like looking back. It's like kind of cringy. It's like oh like I wish I was born a different like race just to fit in. But now looking today and how everything has like happened and occurred is just like it's a value experience that I feel like I wouldn't really trade it for anything else. Um, yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. I think those are a lot of your experiences are some commonalities that I've heard throughout the other spotlights as well. So it's very impactful to hear it because, yeah, like I went to a school that was mostly white people, and it wasn't something that I've had to deal with or experience. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Good.
Yeah, are there any mentors that you would like to recognize that have supported you in your journey so far?
Oof. Quite a few. A lot of them are still in campus rec today. I'll probably just go chronological order. So first job was at campus rec, unless I want to count Dairy Queen, but I worked there for a week and was let go for other reasons. But I was good at making blizzards. But so first job ever, I applied campus rec. Eventually got in the third time, and I landed a position as a fitness attendant in a fitness program area. And at the time, the coordinator was Joseph Seacrest, who is currently now the assistant director for leadership development and assessment here at U of H. First boss, and he definitely helped me get more confidence and I guess just working. I came in with the mindset, oh, this is like my first job. I should probably go the extra mile and make sure I'm doing good. I'm not getting any more problems. I'm being team player. And then I guess he recognized that and said, hey, like, you're a clean slate now. So how about you and I work together and help build you a solid foundation, and you can carry that to whatever career profession you go into. And so definitely appreciate that. Him and I are actually about 10 feet away from each other for our office workspace. He has his own office, and I'm in a cubicle right outside. And every day we just exchange dad jokes whenever we think of a good one or we can find a good one. So definitely appreciate him. Next, Riley Spinningsby. She was my former graduate supervisor, or my first graduate supervisor in operations whenever I switched program areas. She helped me get kind of like navigate through my identity crisis of, like PT isn't for me. What am I going to do in my life? And she kind of said, oh, I thought about campus rec, or you should consider going to sports and fitness admin and go to this nursing conference. I was like, okay. And she definitely helped me find my, I guess, a direction of where I wanted to go. And then I want to thank Chris Porres. Sorry, I butchered your last name. He's probably going to clown me for this after he sees this. He was also my former graduate supervisor in operations. He currently works at Madison, Wisconsin-Madison. I'm definitely not as a operations facilities coordinator. Him and I definitely we didn't click, but we were able to connect just because he was also a minority with parents that English wasn't first language, and we related on all topics. And he definitely helped me get through my first year of graduate school and just the process of getting to that, as well as applying to the position I'm in today. I think that definitely played a big role because it's one of those things where if you have someone that can relate to the staff, the student staff, I think you're able to incite or incentivize or inspire the staff into what they want to do and give them a more meaningful, lasting impression whenever they work here. Because at the end of the day, here at Campus Rec, it is nice to have students come and then be supervisors and they become your friends. But at the end of the day, I'd rather them see them get internships or make career goals or get out of here. Because as much as I appreciate the things I learned from you and the experience and memories, I'd rather see them succeed. And then currently my supervisors, Daniel Belcher, assistant director for operations here at U of H, and William Cornelio, the coordinator for operations here at U of H. They're both been really supportive of me. I've definitely ran into some pretty steep obstacles this semester. Opening up just a little bit, I've been dealing with betrayal trauma for a few years now, and they've been really supportive. Whenever I kind of opened up to my direct supervisor, he was just more than understanding, like, hey, like, this is what I went through. And, I kind of know where you're coming from. So, do what you need to do. Like, take time for yourself. The work will always be here. Just take care of yourself first, because at the end of the day, you can't really um, get the most out of like what you're doing now with school and work and everything if you're always constantly like in this loop of what did I do wrong, internal like conflicts. And then lastly, one of my longtime personal friends, Michael Jin, he's been my friend since I transferred to U of H, and he was kind of subconsciously, he was kind of that mentor I was looking for, that I never really had. And we're still in contact today. And he's currently my powerlifting coach, which is one of my hobbies. And we still talk weekly. And he's just been this guy that's like 1.5 years older than me, but has the wisdom of like 50 lifespans, and it's just interesting. He's one of those people where I genuinely enjoy listening to ramble. I don't know, like it's very rare to find that. But yeah, those are the many mentors that I definitely appreciate having that supported me in my professional development.
Nice. It's wonderful to have such a nice community around you, especially when they like give you the space to kind of like put yourself first. I think is really important. So, and lifting is fun. It's always nice to have a lifting buddy. Could you share? So you shared some of your experiences, kind of from childhood, and would you mind talking to us a little bit more about some of your lived experiences regarding Asian stereotypes or biases that you have experienced, either personally or professionally?
Yes. Um, so from primary and secondary education, I definitely experienced the stereotypical, oh, like Asians are smart at everything, and I also had the negative side effects of that. Um, I was particularly better in history and math. So whenever the teacher hands out the tests, and oh, like congrats to Kenny for getting a 90 something or A on the exam. It's like, oh, I'll hear comments like, oh, it's because he's Asian, like he's smart at this, blah blah. And it's just like, okay. I kind of just brushed off at the time, just because like like, hey, I got a good grade. I'm not complaining about my good grade. And then whenever I struggle a lot in science and English, since English is my second language. So I was put into ESL, and along the way, everything got jumbled, and now I'm half fluent in English, half fluent in Vietnamese. Um, but whenever I would struggle in these areas, I remember getting comments or hearing things like, "Oh, like aren't Asians good at technology, or like aren't y'all supposed to be good at science?" And or like, "Oh, like are you still like trying to learn English?" Blah blah blah. It was just, I understood at the time, like, oh, like that's not really nice to say, but like I didn't know what to react with. I just like nervously laughed it off. I just yeah, and then just changed the topic. Um, those are like the more extreme examples, and then I kind of noticed that as you get older, people kind of learn how to talk to other people properly and appropriately, not make comments like those. Some people still need work on it today, but everyone has their own timeline of learning process. And then at university, after some character development and going out and getting out of my comfort zone, um, I actually heard this from other Asian students. It kind of bothered me more hearing it from people that I thought like I would relate more. But the one common thing I've heard was, you're really outgoing and you hang around with more non-Asians than normally when compared to other Asians. And I kind of just like looked back and I was just like should I be offended or should I be like feeling like complimented? Because it's just like, is it a bad thing to hang out with people outside of your race? Like like Houston's pretty diverse and U of H is pretty diverse. So I didn't see the problem with it. So at the time, I also brushed that off, which I probably should have addressed. But I'm pretty sure they kind of realized like, oh, like I shouldn't say that. That's now. hindsight. And at workplace, I remember backtracking to when I first started as a fitness attendant. We were learning how to use Fusion or Winterworks scheduling software, and it could be a little daunting at first, just because with anything new, you're kind of like, oh, like I don't know what I'm doing here. Um, but I think there was one in service we had, and we had questions about like, oh, how would you request a trade shift or like something along those lines. And I kind of just like chipped in and like, hey, this is how you do it. You da 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 da. Like you click this, and that, and then they're like, oh yeah, like dang, y'all Asians are good with technology. And I was like, we really in college? I'm hearing this right now. And I kind of just refuted, or not refute, but I kind of just went, yeah, like, I mean, I just played around with the software on my own and figure it out. Like, I mean, it's not much to it. Um, I don't know. It might have came off a bit passive aggressive, but it was just like, at the end of the day, it's just, you kind of just figure it out, or you have to figure it out. I mean, it's fun to ask questions, but personally, I just want to see how things work. And I guess that's how I contributed. And that comment was just like, oh, okay, like, oh, okay, like I thought we were past this at this age group, but I guess not.
Great. Well, thank you so much. So you had mentioned a little bit that you had either kind of laughed off a couple of those instances or had like responded maybe with a follow-up question or a couple of other ways. So could you talk to us about how you have had to personally navigate some of these microaggressions? Because it sounds like you've been hit with them in a lot of different scenarios.
Yeah. So working campus rec, and the stereotype is like, oh, like you work at a gym, you're gonna work out, blah blah blah. I thought we were past that in certain areas, but whenever I first started working here, and then when you work at the rec center, you're gonna probably work out before or after shift, and then your coworkers are probably gonna see. There, I remember some coworkers. I guess they were surprised by not really trying to like brag, but I was just working out and I do powerlifting. And essentially, powerlifting, you're lifting heavier weights at lower volume, but higher intensity. And I guess I was just working out regularly, and I just heard from my coworkers, you're strong for a little Asian guy. And I was just like, okay, like thanks. I just work out consistently. Or in like a more social aspect of things, it's like, oh, um, it was, I don't know how to word this, but or how to start off the story, but I've gotten like numerous like, or I've had numerous conversations where it just entails like um, them saying, oh, like you're pretty good looking for an Asian guy, or I don't usually go for Asians, but you're the exception. And I was kind of just confused, and definitely just didn't want anything else to do with them after that. Um, and I'm not placing entirely the blame on them. I do believe that we've come a long way now in Hollywood and social media. Um, Korean pop culture has been booming, so more, I guess, exposure for like Korean celebrities or Asian celebrities in music. New Marvel movie, Shang-Chi, that definitely was big. Um, but looking back, I definitely see how Hollywood has definitely made, I guess, Asian men look very like unmasculine, or the common roles they would play in movies. There's one movie. What was it? Was it The Hangover? Can't remember. But it, like Asian roles, or like Asian men were always portrayed as like nerdy, or can't really have a social conversations correctly, or just very like not sociable and doesn't fit in well with others. Um, And I think that's like led to like how a lot of people or some people perceive it now, and that's changed obviously. But I think that was a big reason as to why that might have came up numerous times in conversations. I remember watching a lot of Jet Li and Jackie Chan films growing up, and I think there was one film by Jet Li, and it was a singer that played as an actress. I think it was Romeo Must Die. And looking back, it was like every film, the main lead always had like that stereotypical like romantic kissing scene with the female lead. But that film in particular, I for some reason I was young and I just noted it. I was like, huh, like there wasn't a kissing scene in this one, but in all these other movies with like other actors of like other like ethnicities and races, like they always had that scene. So, and then recently I read an article that addressed that, and it was just like, they acknowledged like, okay, good movie, it was action film. It wasn't a rom com, but uh, I guess the directors refused to have a scene like that just because they didn't felt it fit right with the actors. And I kind of just like, okay, well, we're past that now, but it was just something I noted and read along the way up from the article today. And I was like, okay, well, if I noticed at a young age, then from my point of view, then definitely everyone else that watch these films definitely perceive Asians as a certain way that Hollywood project them to be. Um, and navigating these, I guess an example, it was like spring 2021, so about a year after the pandemic started. Um, I believe there's a new variant. Staff are going to talk, joke around, and a particular staff member, um, he's Asian, and he mentioned, yeah, like there's a new variant coming out, and then another staff member was like, huh, like what's going on in y'all's country, and I was kind of just like, did he really just say that? There's no way he said that. And at the time, I was still a student staff. I wasn't a graduate assistant. So the way I saw it, I guess context is always what matters. And the particular staff member that said that, he's fairly new and kind of wanted to joke around. I had to pull him like into like a private like one-on-one conversation, like, hey, um, can you like explain or walk me through like why you said that? He's like, oh, like I was just like making a joke. I didn't mean like anything malicious or anything. I was like, all right. I guess like, I appreciate it and everyone else appreciate it. You avoid like making those kind of comments because it's not like something to joke about. You definitely upset at the other staff member, and it'll definitely help if you apologize and acknowledge like why it's wrong. And just having a conversation of why that joke shouldn't be made, just because it was unnecessary, and it's just like, the pandemic's no joke. Like we've all known somebody that has a family member that possibly has passed away from COVID related complications, um, and it was just like one of those things where yeah, I could have like brought it to a higher up and let them deal with it. But at that moment, I was affected too, and but I want to remain impartial and just give them a chance to like talk about it. And I was able to address it, and now the staff members, they're both still with us, and they both like they're friends now. And the one that made the joke, he knows better than to like repeatedly make those jokes ever again. And I think that's like the biggest thing is just helping people learn and not just like discipline them, because disciplining, you don't, most of the time they might not learn why, but just having that conversations definitely go a long way. That was just like a bigger example I can think of. But these conversations, the way I see it is just educating them. Um, Whenever someone said, "Oh, you're strong for an Asian," or "You look good for Asian," you kind of just like, huh, like I kind of just have a very polite conversation of, "Hey, I really appreciate the compliment and where you're coming from. I can see what you're trying to say, but if you could like future like future reference or advice, just omit the the race portion of the compliment because it doesn't like you're complimenting the person for something, but it shouldn't be tied to their race. Like it kind of puts this narrative of how everyone sees things, and like a very superficial standard that people often like feel like they can't meet. And when you associate that with a compliment, it's kind of like, oh, like, am I better than the average, or am I meeting expectations of society? Um, and then just following that up with like, I feel like, that compliment, it did, I understand it was a compliment, but I felt like you're just saying something that, or I felt a certain type of way because of that. That's negative. Um, I can't think of an example of that right now. But there's that. Um, and I think you can be very direct through that method, or sometimes passive aggressiveness can help in certain situations, but most of the time I feel like that just leads to a very heated conversation that will be hard to backtrack. So just being direct and being open and honest is what really carries like the entire flow of the conversation.
Thank you so much for sharing those. I think kind of like bringing in the aspects of Hollywood and the
Hmm.
way that people have been portrayed in popular culture for a long time. Um, Definitely is useful to address with people like as they are beginning to like reflect on their own lived experiences, and
Hmm.
also like how they treat and address people, and like maybe the biases that they have and the way that they like view or see other people, is really really helpful.
Hmm.
So thank you for sharing all of this, because it's yeah, I think it's really helpful as people are listening to this or watching this to be like, oh, oops, I've done that. Or, oh, I've heard somebody say that to somebody else. And now I understand that that's not an acceptable thing to say. So you had, to kind of wrap things up, you had talked a little bit about how you had addressed some of those things that you have kind of encountered. So how have you been able to kind of incorporate the kind of DEI lens or work to kind of address these systems of inequities that you've kind of had to handle, or that maybe you've seen within your community, your university community?
Mm, I don't have a perfect answer. It's just what I've been able to observe and put together. Um, and I think I guess the specific answer I have right here, um, is just, I guess, you always want to set boundaries, and know like what is everyone's lines to not push or buttons to push. Just being transparent up front. Um, I think I've used this myself. It's just kind of like, if I wanted to know more about, for example, one of my good friends, his faith is he's Muslim, and I kind of just wanted to ask questions like, hey, like, like, sorry, I don't I hope you don't take this long way or anything, but um, I don't know much about your faith and everything, because he explains like he can't eat Jello or gelatin because it comes from I think like pig fat or something. Way he's described it, and I was like, oh, like when you mentioned that, I feel like I should ask you just so I can know you better, and so I know like how to, I guess, navigate or talk to you, just because if you don't have that conversation, you're constantly going to be walking like around eggshells or something, and you won't really able to build like a genuine organic relationship with that person. And just straight up like being polite and respectful, but asking like, hey, like, can we have this conversation where I just want to know like what's appropriate for me to say and what's appropriate for me to ask regarding you, and what they identify with, or what their faith is, stuff along those lines. Just because in any relationship or friendship, you want to be able to be comfortable enough to be transparent. That way, you can communicate with what both of you guys are, both people are thinking, um, and that just pushes away all the the weird like runarounds and beating around the bush. I think that's like big, because most of the time when people talk about like, oh, we should be more diverse, it's like, okay, so what are you gonna do? Oh, we should like have these seminars, or these cultural festivals, blah blah. Like those are great, but I feel like just having that conversation with that person is more impactful, just because they're getting a more, I guess, individualistic experience and they're learning more instead of them just going to like a convention or a festival and just like seeing, observing, but they're not really able to ask those questions like, oh, can I say this, or how do I address this? Um, and then just to build off of that, kind of just support like special like programs or student organizations that I guess emphasize a certain group. So that could be professional development student orgs or cultural social orgs, stuff along those lines. Those orgs serve a huge purpose in the community and on college campuses, just because they provide a sense of belonging, as well as the other way around, where other people can learn more about like the intended group if they're interested. Um, I think those are my main two, I guess, ways of breaking down like barriers. Um, Not very, I guess, structural, but it's just what I've always been doing, and it's been working well for me in my experience. Like obviously, everyone's mileage may vary. I attend and work at a very diverse institution, so I might have the leeway of like, okay, like I don't have to set anything out. I just have to direct like the students where to go. Um, but that's just what's worked for me.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And those are really, I'm not going to say easy, but those are really like approachable things that people can do to begin to have like conversations about like barriers to entry or to even just learn about other cultures. Yeah, have more conversations where they're educating themselves instead of expecting to be educated by other people. So, yeah, Kenny, thank you so much for sharing everything today. We deeply appreciate you sharing your lived experiences and your story with the bigger NERSA fam. Can't wait to meet you in at annual. And for everyone that's tuning in, please make sure that you check out the other spotlights in this series. They're available on YouTube and IGTV. So thanks so much, everybody, and have a great day.